Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Alina Islam, and I'm a mining analyst here at Red Cloud Securities. I'm very pleased to introduce ACME Lithium to you today, an exploration company focused on advancing its portfolio of lithium projects in North America. For the webinar today, we have with us Steve Hanson, President and CEO. Steve will provide an introduction to the company, including an overview of activities currently underway at its Clayton Valley Lithium Brine project located in Nevada. After the presentation, we'll take your questions live. Please send us your questions via the chat box and we'll get through as many as we can. Before we get started, I do need to mention the fine print. For ACME Lithium, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the ACME Lithium corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for ACME Lithium specific disclosures. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Steve. Please take it away.
Great. Thanks, Alina. Pleasure to be with you today, and welcome everybody. Again, my name is Steve Hanson. I'm the president and CEO of ACME Lithium. For those that are new to our story, I'm going to briefly go over a bit of the history and why I founded ACME Lithium. I'm not only the president and CEO, I'm the founder of the company as well. So let's, again, this is a statement that we need to put in here. And again, this presentation or a variation of it is on our website. So feel free to take a look at this on page 2 of the presentation. So really the theme here, why I founded ACME, was we're in the right marketplace right now. Battery metals obviously are really important to the global community as we go through this transition. Again, lithium-ion battery demand is expected to grow massively, which is really driven by the core commodity lithium. I've put together a portfolio which I believe is really strategically important. In particular, our projects are in and around existing production, and there's not many places where lithium is currently produced in North America. And then I have a team on our board and a technical team that have a track record of working on all 4 continents, and certainly in the commodity lithium and in North America. So really, we're in the right market. We've got the right address for our projects, and we've got the right people. One thing that many investors may not know is that most of the lithium comes from only a handful of countries. You know, as we open our cell phones and our laptops, we ride our e-bikes and maybe drive our hybrids or electric vehicles, we kind of take it for granted that lithium is readily available, where in fact, over 95% of the world's lithium comes from only 4 countries, that being Chile, Australia, Argentina, and China. So this is where this crisis has come into, where we absolutely need a domestic supply of lithium here in North America. We cannot rely on foreign jurisdictions for the future of our needs. Lithium prices have skyrocketed in the last couple of years. There has been a fairly major correction this year in 2023, but we saw an almost 20 times increase in the commodity price over the last sort of less than 36 months. It's still at a very healthy price. And again, all the independent analysts and consulting firms are predicting that we're going to have a very, very steady, favorable price as a commodity, and that we'll continue to see increase in demand. So an overview of our projects, again, we've got 2 in the southwestern region in Nevada. This really is the epicenter of development in the United States for lithium. In fact, up until recently, was the only place where lithium was produced in the United States. We've got 2 projects there. One, a brine project at Clayton Valley, Nevada, and then a sedimentary claystone project in the neighboring valley at Fish Lake. And then we have a group of projects in and around the Tanko mine, which is a producing lithium, cesium, tantalum mine in southeastern Manitoba, and then a large land package in northern Saskatchewan. So moving on specifically to Nevada, Nevada was named by the Fraser Institute recently as the #1 mining jurisdiction in the world. Western Australia came second. Again, it's a great jurisdiction to be working. A long history of resource development, gold, copper, silver, wind, solar, long history of mining. You can work there 12 months of the year. You're not in the middle of a jungle or in the Arctic. You've got infrastructure, road, rails, and you're near end buyers. There's battery factories in Nevada, Tesla being the notable one. Panasonic also has a battery factory. So again, a good place for us to be working in the state of Nevada. I'll focus here on the southwestern region. Again, this is where the only production in the U.S. up until recently has been by the giant Albemarle. They're the number one producer of lithium in the world, a $30 billion market cap company on the New York Stock Exchange. We're in and around that project. So as we close in here by satellite on our two projects in Nevada, again, this is on the southwest side of the state. We're near the California border, about halfway between Reno and Las Vegas. We're near major highways. You'll see Silver Peak on the right-hand side here. This is a lithium brine production facility that's been producing lithium here since 1966. It's an ancient lake bed. We are on the northwest side of that valley and one of the only brine players in the region. And then as you cross the foothills, not very far away, about 25 kilometers away, we're next to a world-class sedimentary claystone project run by an Australian company called Ioneer. We're their neighbor to the west. Closing in here on satellite view here at Clayton Valley, as I mentioned, this is an ancient lake bed that has a very productive aquifer. It's been producing lithium since 1966. You'll see here in this picture, these are evaporation ponds. So the way lithium is formed, it can come in rocks, it can come in clays, but it also can come in brine or salt water beneath the ground. So again, this brine is pumped to surface. In Albemarle's case, they're allowing it to sit on surface in evaporation ponds. You then get a white substance of paste or clay on the surface that then is processed and you extract lithium. So we're on the northwest side here, and we've been actively exploring here over the last year and a half. We started with 2 phases of geophysics. These are taking pictures of the Earth to understand certain readings that allow us to ultimately identify drill targets. And then we drilled here last summer, and this was a maiden drill program. It was the first time this northern side of the basin had been drilled. We felt that we could target that same aquifer and productive lithology. We knew where the main target was. It's around 1,200 feet. This is a target that had been productive in other areas of the valley and certainly by Albemarle. So we knew that this layer potentially, from an aquifer standpoint, could be productive. We drilled to about 1,400 feet. Sure enough, we drilled right through that interval layer of sand and gravel and ash, again, that potentially could be productive. And brine started to intensify as we got deeper in the hole. We, in fact, found lithium around 275 feet, and it continued to increase in grade all the way down to the bottom of the hole. So we were quite thrilled. We had made a discovery here on the northern side of Clayton Valley. So I spent the fall working on planning, procurement, and permitting for an expanded program at our site. We went through that process in the fall and early winter, and then ultimately began drilling a twin hole here. We felt there was potential for lithium deeper, and so we brought a bigger rig in. We drilled a twin hole here called DH1A. We drilled to basement rock here at around 1,820 feet, and sure enough, there was lithium all the way down to the bottom of the hole. We followed that up now with what's called a test well. So in essence, you're drilling a water well. It's a larger diameter hole that's cased. And there's a lot of information we can get from this larger diameter hole. This test well was the first test well to be done at this depth and on this side of the basin. We have what we call is the lower gravel unit, or LGU, which is just over 500 feet of potential gravels and sands that could be productive for an aquifer. So again, really interesting information we've received over the last 90 days. We announced recently that we completed this test well. And then on Monday of this week, we announced that we were beginning the commencement of what's called a pump test. And so this pump test allows us to understand the flow of the aquifer or the brine that can come out of this test well. So in understanding whether we have a resource, you need not just grade, you need flow, and then you ultimately need reservoir. So we look at things like porosity and permeability. We obviously look at grade and other elements that are contained within the brine. So this pump test started this week. It's a 10-day pump test, and it's probably one of the most critical moments of this program in understanding what we do have below ground in this lithology and certainly this active aquifer. So again, we're in a very critical period right now. We're excited to hopefully have some good results. We will continue to update our shareholders and new investors, over the next few weeks as to how things are going. So we will send brine off to the lab for further testing. Again, I've got a team down there right now as we continue with this pump test this week. It's a 10-day pump test. It started this week, and we'll have more information that we can take a look at over the coming days. As I mentioned before, you saw some pictures of evaporation ponds, large, massive football field size evaporation ponds where you allow the salt water to evaporate, and then you process the remaining material to extract lithium. It's got to be a better way to do this. It can take a long time for that salt water to evaporate. Recoveries tend to be between 45 and 65%. So tens of millions of dollars are pouring into new technology called direct lithium extraction, or DLE as its short form. I've listed a number of companies here that are spending significant money on this technology. The global giant Schlumberger is one of the leaders in this area. And in fact, they partnered with Panasonic, have built a demonstration DLA plant right in our valley. They're a neighbor of ours, and they are testing brine from this ancient lake bed. We believe our brine has great similarities to what they're testing. So we're following this project very closely. Again, they received permits for this demonstration facilities. They started construction a few months ago, and they're right now testing that facility. In fact, I've been invited for a tour of the facility sometime here in the coming weeks. We continue to dialogue with them, and we certainly will be hopeful we can send brine to them for testing as well. Again, the fact that there's a DLE demonstration facility in our valley is really interesting to us. But we also are looking at other DLE technologies. EnergyX is backed by General Motors. They're based out of Texas and have interesting technology. We know it very well. E3 Lithium is a Canadian company that the Canadian government, in fact, has provided close to $50 million in funding for as a DLE technology. So, and Lilac Solutions is a global provider too. So we follow these very closely. We believe DLE is going to be important for the processing of lithium, and certainly for Clayton Valley down the road. So we continue to hopefully collaborate and evaluate DLE as we continue to advance our project. Over the foothills from Clayton Valley, about 25 kilometers away, we have a project in an area called Fish Lake. This is next to a place called Rhyolite Ridge. You can actually drive a road from Silver Peak, Coyote Road, over the foothills, right through a world-class lithium boron project. This is a sedimentary claystone project run by an Australian company called Ioneer. Ioneer signed offtakes with Ford, Toyota, and Panasonic last summer, and the U.S. government has conditionally offered up to $700 million US for construction and operation of this potential mine. I talked to the CEO, actually, of Ioneer in June at a conference. In fact, we're on the same panel together, and they're expecting to actually start construction of this mine in the first quarter of 2024. So this is very exciting. This is one of the top projects in North America to go into construction. We're their neighbor to the west. We're just down the hill. We're a couple kilometers away down Cave Springs Road. We've been actively exploring here over the course of the winter period. We did geophysics in the fall of 2022, ultimately identifying some claystone targets. And then we had some of the highest values to date on our project, over 1,400 ppm lithium, lots of hits at 1,200. This project's drill ready. We hope to drill here sometime in the future. We're working on budgets and planning here. Again, it really is about our access to capital and the future. There's only so many projects we can work on and drill at the same time. But again, we hope to be drilling here sometime in the future. We think it has great potential. And again, the fact that we're next to a mine about to go into production gives us infrastructure nearby for the future. Again, rocks do start and stop. There's no guarantee we're going to have a world-class resource here like next door, but it's certainly be a good place for us to have active exploration. The focus here obviously right now is on Clayton Valley, Nevada. That's really our flagship project right now. It's where we're going to have near-term results for shareholders. We're hopeful that we're going to have success here in the coming weeks and months, and we'll continue to update as new information becomes available. I do want to focus on our Saskatchewan project, because this is a project that we actually are about to be active on here in the next couple of weeks. We'll have boots on the ground here. We have a very, very large land position in northern Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan's got a long history for mineral development, not just in commodities like uranium, diamonds, base metals, agriculture as well, potash, but also in oil and gas. But in fact, there are pegmatites, which are host rocks for lithium in Saskatchewan, and there's been more activity happening here over the last year. We were fortunate to secure a very large land package here, close to 42,000 hectares. The area here in red, we optioned from a prospector who was active in the area, and then we felt there was a structure that came through this region, and so we staked additional ground here in the blue. We're interested here, and what was been found is, and it's very, very rare to find this, is that there are occurrences of boulder trains and outcrop with lithium spodumene at surface. And we're seeing grade up to 4,000 ppm lithium and 3,500 ppm. These are samples taken by the previous holder, the prospector that had showed me this project. Again, we need to get boots on the ground here and verify, in fact, that this has the same potential. This will be the first time that we are in active exploration here under ACME Lithium on this ground. We'll start with geophysics here. Again, multi-modality geophysical program will take place in August. And then we'll follow that up in early September with some geochemistry, some mapping, extensive sampling of some of the area here. Again, it's a very large area. We're going to be limited this season as to covering that whole area. There's no way we could cover it in one season, but we're going to focus in on these core areas where there's boulder trains and outcrop. And then regionally, we're going to move out from there, looking for potential source areas of host pegmatite. So again, exciting project. We've got work and boots on the ground here, starting here in the next couple of weeks. I'm just waiting on word from our team as to when that's going to commence. When it does commence, I certainly will provide an update to our shareholders and investors. And then as we get more information over the next couple of months, and obviously we'll be sending off those samples to the lab. We expect those results sometime later in the fall, but we'll provide updates on Saskatchewan over time. So again, excited to get this work started. It's the first time we're going to be on this ground in active exploration, and we think it has certainly excellent potential down the road. So again, for those of you who aren't aware of our team, I've got a great small board and technical team that I work with. Yanis Titsos has been on my board since we founded it. He was with BHP for 19 years, and I've been involved in over a couple hundred transactions. We've got a great small technical team in the US and in Canada that have worked on all 4 continents and that are active in our projects. I've spent close to 30 years in the resource sector. I've been CEO of companies. I've been on boards. I've been advisor to boards. I also had a money management firm for a number of years. But I've been involved in a number of strategic investments. a number of M&A transactions. I actually sold a company to Robert Freeland and the Ivanhoe Group a number of years ago and worked as an independent out of Ivanhoe's offices for a couple of years. And I founded the company with the belief that we absolutely need a domestic supply of lithium here in North America. And although exploration has a lot of risk to it, we believe we've assembled an excellent package here. So again, growing opportunity in this sector. We've got multiple projects. We're obviously drilling right now in southwestern Nevada, and we'll have active exploration in Saskatchewan upcoming here. And then just wanted to point out two of our key shareholders. So we've got many great shareholders, obviously, from retail shareholders located in Europe, in the US, in Canada, in Australia. And then we've got a number of family offices, investment advisors that follow us, and then a number of institutions that have provided us capital over the last couple of years. We've done a lot in a very short period of time. Waratah Capital Advisors is my largest shareholder. Through their electrification and decarbonization fund, they own about 14%. LRC, Lithium Royalty Corporation, is an investor, as well as a couple other funds here in Canada. Obviously, Red Cloud has been a supporter of us and has brought some investment historically into the company as well, and we're appreciative of that. Again, we're in a difficult junior market right now, but we do have active exploration ongoing. I think we're an interesting company to take a closer look at. Again, we'll have hopefully some key milestones upcoming, and then I will have to finance at some point here. We have some cash in the bank, but this is an expensive business. We have spent a fair bit of money this year. At some point in the future, I am going to need to finance, and that's certainly the ongoing role I have as CEO, is to continue to run the company and continue to make sure we're well capitalized. We are listed on the CSE under ACME. We're on the highest level of OTC markets on the QX under ACLHF, and then we've just got under 60 million shares out. So again, appreciate everybody's time in joining us today. I know it's the summer months, and for you taking your time here, we appreciate it. This is a picture here of Clayton Valley. This is the ancient lake bed here where we're currently doing our pumping test. And again, appreciate everybody's time here this summer in providing and getting an update on our company.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. That was a great presentation. So we'll get started on the Q&A portion of our webinar now. Just as a reminder to our participants, you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. So Steve, a couple of questions here already. You talked about the pump tests at Clayton Valley. So when would we expect to start seeing results?
Yeah, so this is a 10-day pump test. We will send Brian off to the lab as we are in the midst of this pump test. We'll evaluate the data with my team, but I expect to have some form of updates before the end of August.
Okay, and then on that resource for Clayton Valley, what's your timing on that?
Well, I mean, that's ultimately the goal here. And, we're going to need to see the data, and with my team, my hydrologist, my geologist, independent consultant that we have as well. We believe that this pump test and information that we get, again, if successful, utilizing some of the existing data in the valley. Obviously, we're next to one of the only production facilities, and there's historical data there. We believe that with a little more information, we potentially can get to an initial resource. Again, I don't want to promise that, but it is possible, and we're reviewing that right now as to whether this will be enough information. Again, the two step-out holes, the two exploration holes that are permitted. Again, this is only based on success of this test well. We would work on the planning of those step-out holes as well. And certainly, if they were to be drilled and be successful, we would absolutely have enough information for a resource. So again, we're just working through that right now. The goal here is to get to a resource. That certainly is the purpose of this phase 2 program, this characterization program. It's always been outlined to get to a resource with success. And ultimately, I think that's the fundamentals that we need to hopefully provide value to our shareholders.
Okay, so moving on to Fish Lake Valley, do you have drill permits for that project?
We are ready from a planning and budget standpoint. We've certainly talked to contractors with some initial conversations. Permitting is pretty straightforward in Nevada. We've obviously done it before on our other projects, and also I have a history, obviously, of having done it with other entities. It's a 90 to 120 day process. At this time, we have not submitted permits at Fish Lake. Part of our plan would be is we need to understand in this marketplace where we're allocating capital. Right now, we're in the midst of this, fairly major phase 2 program in Clayton Valley. We've got work upcoming here in Saskatchewan. Although we have some money in the bank, I think it would stretch us to immediately move to drill Fish Lake right now, even though it's ready to go. So again, depending upon market conditions, when we raise additional capital, if we have visibility on that, we would submit permits at Fish Lake and we would drill there within a few months. So again, really it's about visibility and access to capital over the next few months. Obviously, we're hoping to have some results that will be positive. Again, there's no guarantee on that, but we're hopeful that we're going to have positive results. And then again, depending upon our access to capital, our goal here would be to drill Fish Lake sometime down the road.
Okay, what about Manitoba? You just finished phase 1 drilling there. Any plans for the rest of 2023?
Yeah, so we had our phase 1 drill program in Manitoba. We've obviously come out with a press release on that. Although we intersected pegmatites, which are potential host rocks for lithium, in 6 of our 8 holes, we did not have visible lithium or economic grade lithium. We are the largest landholder south of the Tanko mine, which is a world-class pegmatite. It's currently in production by Sinomine, a Chinese company. It's been off and on in production since 1969. We've got a great land position. We're only 2 kilometers south of the actual mine. Their power lines go right through our project. It's highly prospective. These are pegmatite fields throughout the region. There's a lot of activity. Unfortunately, we did not have the drill success that we were looking for in this maiden drill program. But it doesn't mean that we won't potentially have future success down the road. I actually, we've stepped back. We're evaluating the data. We actually sent a pegmatite expert who had just done work in Brazil and had wanted to take a look at pegmatites in and around the Tanko mine. She actually had just spent a week with my lead geologist at our site early in July and was analyzing core and samples and reviewing data. And we're getting more insights as to what we're seeing there. Again, it's not easy work. We think our project has great prospectivity. Again, we're disappointed with the results that we had this winter, although we did intersect pegmatites that were unknown before. We didn't get the lithium that we were looking for. So again, with further information, we're going to continue to evaluate it. We have done significant work there in that we can hold those claims for quite a long period of time now, and the maintenance of those claims is fairly minimal, and we've got a very, very low cost G&A on managing our small. We rent a small, call it a shed or a core shack there that we keep our core. So we're keeping costs very, very low in Manitoba. We'll continue to evaluate it. And again, we'll look on visibility of a potential phase 2 program down the road. We don't have plans for that in the near term. we also are looking for partners. It's something that we can create value in this difficult junior mining market. We have a portfolio of projects, and I am in active discussion with a number of companies on potential partnerships. We can spend ACME's money on our projects. We can raise money to do that, or we don't have to own 100% of everything. We can have another company potentially spend money on our projects to advance them. Maybe we don't have as much upside as we did before, but it certainly allows us to advance projects and keep them moving. So those are things that we continue to work on. I'm hopeful that is another area of growth potential for ACME, where if we're not active on our projects in the near term, that someone else can spend money on them and create value for our shareholders.
All right. So, Steve, you mentioned, it has been a tough market out there. Would you consider a listing on the ASX?
I've had some discussions. There's obviously been a fair bit of interest out of Australia in lithium companies, and we certainly have had some discussion. Yeah, I mean, I think just listing for the sake of listing is it needs to be a catalyst. So does it come with a potential joint venture, a partnership, capital? What are the other attributes of that listing? But it's certainly something that we would consider, and something that we'll continue to evaluate.
All right. So last question here, Steve. Could you just sum up your upcoming catalyst, let's say in the next 6 to 12 months?
Sure. Well, obviously the leading catalyst upcoming is data from our pump test and analysis of our brine. So again, we should have information and updates, rolling updates over the next 90 to 120 days on that project. And then obviously we'll provide information as to what our next steps will be based on that information. I'll continue to dialogue with DLE companies. So there's always the possibility that we may have a collaboration. Again, there's no guarantee, but we need to send brine off for testing by the DLE companies. But that's something that is my goal here, that with success at Clayton Valley, that we have a collaboration with a DLE company or two. That's something that is a goal of mine. And then we obviously are going to have we're going to complete the Saskatchewan work mid to end of September. Labs are taking a little while. They're a little quieter now than they have been in the past, but I would expect results, to be turned around in 60 to 90 days. So we will have results out of Saskatchewan, whether it be geophysical interpretation or geochem results. We'll have those in Saskatchewan in sometime in probably the fourth quarter of calendar year of 2023. So really those are the near term upcoming potential items. Again, there are other items that we're working on and continuing to advance our projects, potential partnerships, and those things that we'll update shareholders as they become material.
All right. Well, a lot to look forward to. So that's it for the Q&A portion of the webinar. Steve, thank you so much for taking time to host this webinar with us today. Just as a reminder for our audience, our next webinar will feature Titan Minerals, and that's on Tuesday, August 8th at 9 a.m. Eastern. Thanks for tuning in with us, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alina.